Hello friends, we are here in 2 Corinthians chapter 2 today. So there's something you need to know about the background of this letter before it can make any sense. And it's more, I've been saying something for the past couple of chapters, and that is that Paul has this contentious relationship with the church in Corinth. But they're mending it, and he's addressing one of the issues that was standing between them. And that issue is, well, I guess it's two separate issues, but it's coming from the same source. There was people coming behind Paul, and they were saying that they needed to follow the Mosaic law. Probably because it was so sinful there in Corinth, and they were saying, you need to be following the law. And they're looking at Paul and they're saying he does not have the credentials to be doing this. He's not one of the original 12. I don't know exactly what they could have been saying, because Paul was a Pharisee. He doesn't have the proper letters of recommendation. They're questioning his legitimacy to preach the gospel. And why? Because they believe that you need to be a Jew before you can become a Christian. Or rather, they believe that you should be following the Mosaic law in order to be a Christian. And so Paul is addressing that point. And he's also addressing the point that of his letters of recommendation. He's saying, you are my letter of recommendation. Because when you see the Holy Spirit working in you, that is your evidence that the things that I taught you are true and valid and good. So the way that he addresses this issue is by looking at the law and what it's doing, and looking at grace and what it does. And when he's talking about grace in this chapter, he references freedom, the freedom that you have in it. You should know this story, that when Moses went up to get the law, his face was like glowing. It said he had a radiant face. And so he put this veil over his face so that it wouldn't freak people out, I guess, but it was just too much for the people to handle. So for a large part of Moses' life, he had this veil in front of him while he was speaking to the people. And it's interesting that here is basically the reflection of God showing on his face, and he covered it. And so Paul is making this distinction, that there was this glory that came from the law. And we don't deny that. The law is glorious. Every time we see someone breaking the law, we think this law is good because what that person did is so bad. But the law doesn't save you. He's saying when you accept Christ, it's like the veil has been lifted. And the Holy Spirit that comes to you from accepting Christ, I should say too that when Moses saw God, it showed this radiant face. And we now see God because he is Jesus. Jesus came to us and he died for us. And so now we have this Spirit. And so he's saying there was this glory that was before. And it was glorious, so glorious that it gave him this radiant face. And that law, essentially, not the law, but that glory went away because something even more glorious came about. And he's saying, Moses had this radiant face, but we have the Holy Spirit in our lives. And this is something that glows even brighter than Moses when he had this veil over his face. And we don't wear a veil. So how much more should our light shine because we have God in our hearts with no veil? So the people around us should be able to see us, and they should say, this is something different. You know, this is something greater. So Paul brings it back to these Judaizers, these people that are coming in after him, saying that he doesn't have the proper credentials and that they need to be going back to the Mosaic law. And he's saying, these are people that have this veil over their face. They're trying, you are walking around free from the law, free with the Spirit in your life, and they want you to put these blinders back on your face. They want you to read the Old Testament in that way, without Jesus. And he's saying, don't do that. Don't go back to veiling the glory that God's given you. And so some might ask, why would you follow the law if you're under grace? And it's completely different. I kind of see it as the difference between being nice to your sister when you're growing up and being nice to your wife when you're all grown up. When you're nice to your sister when you're young, it's so that you don't get in trouble. Or well, that's pretty much it. You know, kids are kind of mean to each other. But when you get older and you find a woman that you love, you're nice to her because you love her, because you want her to be happy. It's not that's kind of the difference here. You're not following God because of some fear that God is going to bring something down upon you. You're doing it because you love God, because God first showed that he loved you. I also think of Beauty and the Beast. You know, it's interesting that Beast found out that he loves Belle, and so he let her free. And you know, in this chapter, in the end, he says, when we have the Spirit, we're free. And because we're free, we can love God freely. Not because God is going to do something if we don't follow him, but because we love him and we want to follow him. But that's the difference between having the veil and not having the veil. That's the difference between the law and grace. Anyways, that is chapter 3 of 2 Corinthians. All right, have a great day. Bye.